Jake here for American Trucks, and today I'm taking a look at the Red Rock upper replacement grille with daytime running lights fitting 2021 and newer F-150s, excluding the Raptor and Tremor models. If you're after a unique, modern, and clean style for the look of your F-150's front end, then this setup from Red Rock is going to appeal to you. This is an easy way to change up the look of your front end, add some additional lighting, and bring some of that Raptor-inspired flavor to your own truck, all for a pretty affordable price tag. I'm just going to come right out and say it here, and I know we're supposed to be pretty unbiased here, but I think this might be my favorite aftermarket grille that I've seen for this F-150. This is super clean looking, and it still has some cool additional lighting built in for something that's definitely unique. So if you like that Raptor look, but you want something that's maybe a bit more subtle, a bit different than every other truck that's out on the road, this is going to be for you. As you can see, it features this big open honeycomb pattern, sort of reminiscent of a Raptor or a truck you might find pulling off jumps out in the desert, but it's pretty clean and simple otherwise. The open honeycomb does make for a bit more airflow, and you've got some larger additional vents down here on the bottom as well. But the biggest story, and the thing that you're probably most intrigued by, at least I know I was, is this big old LED strip up at the top here. Now this is almost completely hidden when it's off like you see it here, and it looks like that trim around the lights just continues across the top of the grille. But it's actually hiding a big LED strip, and that's going to function as a daytime running light. Now you will have to make one other choice here when you go to install this. You have the option to run it as a fully white LED strip that's going to light up all the way across, kind of give you that light bar, almost a lightning type of look. And it's going to match perfectly with the LED strips on the outside of your stock headlights. Or you can set it up to run as 5 amber running lights across the front. Again, more like a Raptor, but you can't do both. Which one you want is going to change how you wire this in, and we'll show you that more when we get to the install clips. So have a look at what we did to our truck, take a look at some customer photos, think about which one you prefer while you're waiting for it to get to your house. The nice part is you do have that option, and since this is a full LED strip, it's going to last you a long time. Now the grille also includes a provision for the front emblem if you want to have that on, and if your truck is fitted with the forward-facing camera, that is going to require you to do a little bit of trimming, just trim out a little bit here in the back of the grille once this is on. So you can keep that installed if your truck is so equipped. And again, if you just want to put the big Ford Blue Oval back on the front too, you've got the provision to do that. This just bolts on otherwise. Other than the wiring and that little bit of trimming you have to do for that forward-facing camera though, this is a bolt-in replacement for your stock grille, so you don't need to modify anything on the truck itself. Construction here is all high quality ABS plastic, so it's strong, it's lightweight, and it's durable. And it's got this black finish on it, comes just like you see it right now out of the box, so it is ready to mount up. Though since it is ABS plastic, you do have the option to get this painted pretty easily. If you want to go glossy, if you want to color match it to your truck, whatever, you've got some options. The LED strip in here is weather sealed against the elements too, so it should have a nice long lifespan. And since this was designed using OEM CAD data from Ford themselves, this should fit in place of your stock grille just right. Coming in at about $475, this one is a little bit more spendy than some other grills, but still far from the most expensive. And with the inclusion of that LED lighting, I would say this is definitely a good value. And our customers seem to agree too. This one's pretty highly rated on our site, so check it out, see what others have been saying, and get an idea of what setup you'd like to run for the LEDs as well. Installation gets a 2 out of 3 on our difficulty meter, and you should plan on this taking you about 2 hours to complete. It's definitely something a DIYer can handle at home, and you've got the harness that you need already here to go and plug in, and the Scotch lock connectors that you need to do the little bit of wiring already included as well, plus that bracket and the hardware that you need for the front emblem and the forward-facing camera. So again, something you can certainly handle at home. You are gonna have to run some wiring, possibly do that trimming if you need to get that forward-facing camera installed too. However, it's nothing permanent that needs to be modded on your truck. And again, everything comes right in the box. And to show you what's involved, let's head over to the install bay.
Tools required for this install include a ratchet, a clip remover tool, Phillips head screwdriver, a pair of diagonal cutters, an extension, and 7, 8, and 10 millimeter sockets.
What's up guys? Today we're installing a front grille on our F-150, so let's get started.
So the first thing we need to do is come down to our wheel well and remove the 2 screws that are holding in our lower trim. So I've got a 7 millimeter socket to pop these out. And then we'll do that same thing on the other side.
Now with our screws on both sides removed, we can pop out the corners of our lower trim to fully remove it. I've already got the other side popped out, so now we can get this side out. Next, we can remove all of the push clips that are holding in our radiator cover. So I've got a clip remover tool to pop these out. Then we can grab our radiator cover and pop that out of place. Next, we can disconnect these 3 connectors up top. And then we'll remove our 4 upper grill bolts. I've got a 10mm socket to take these out. Next, we can come to the lower corner of our grill and remove this 8mm bolt. I've got an 8mm socket to remove that. And then we'll do that same thing on the other side. Next, we can pull straight back to remove our grill. Now with our grill removed, we're gonna have to take apart a few things in our grill to transfer over to our new one. So we're gonna start with this lower cover. We've got a bunch of push clips holding it in. Some of ours are missing, so you might have a few more on yours. So now I've got a clip remover tool to get behind these clips and pop them out. Next, we can come to the center of our grill and remove this 8mm screw. Next, we can remove the 2 nuts on either side. Now our studs clips are broken, so they're spinning. So I'm gonna grab a clip remover tool to pry up on the bottom while I take this off with a 10mm socket. Now I'm gonna do the same thing for this other one. Grab my clip tool, get that under, put some pressure on, and use a 10mm socket to get that off. And then you can do that same thing on the other side. Next, we can remove these 5 push clips along the top of our grill with a clip remover tool. Next, we can disconnect these 3 clips at the bottom that are holding in our shutter assembly. I've got a clip remover tool handy, so we can push in on these clips and pop them out of place. And now with everything holding our shutter assembly in place removed, we can pull up and remove our assembly. Next, we can remove these 3 nuts that are holding in our emblem. I've got a 10mm socket to pop these out. And then we can lift up on our grill and slide out our emblem. Now the last thing we need to remove is our 2 studs per side. Now these have little tabs that you need to pinch together to pull out. However, ours are broken, so ours can just slide right out. And then you'll do that same thing on the other side. So now we're ready to assemble our new grill. The first thing we need to do is get our emblem bracket into place. So we're gonna center this up in our grill, and it'll drop into place just like that. And now we can flip it over and get our screws and washers installed into the backside. So now we're gonna take our screw with our washer and install into these 4 holes. So I've got a Phillips head screwdriver, and we can tighten these down. Now before we install our emblem, it's important to note that if you have this washer reservoir, you are going to have to cut out a portion of your grill for this to be able to fit. So I have a pair of diagonal cutters so that we can make our cut. So now we're ready to install our emblem. To make this a little bit easier, I'm going to this connector for our camera. That will give us a little bit of extra room to get this in. So we'll put our line in first. And get our logo down into place. And then we'll flip that over. And we can slide our connector in and click that into place. Next, we can reinstall those 3 nuts onto the studs for our emblem. And I'm going to use a 10mm socket with an extension just to get these started. And then we can grab our ratchet to tighten them down. We don't need to go super tight on these. Next, we can transfer over our studs. And we'll do that same thing on the other side. So now we're ready to install our shutter assembly. One thing to keep in mind is you want both of these going through this hole in the top. And then once we lay that down, we can pop that into place. Next, we can reinstall our 2 nuts.
and tighten those down with a 10mm socket. And then you can do that same thing on the other side. Next, we can reinstall our 5 push clips at the top of our grill. Next, we can reinstall our lower cover. We'll line up all of our clips and push those in. Now before we install our grill, we're gonna have to pop out our passenger side headlight to do our wiring. We have one connector on the back side of the headlight that we have a splitter for. That's how we're gonna get power to our DRL. So we have an 8mm bolt down here, and then a bunch of 10mm bolts and nuts and a push clip up top. So I've got an 8mm socket, start at the bottom and get our first one out. Next, we can come to the outside corner of our headlight. We have our 10mm nut as well as this 10mm bolt. We can grab a 10mm socket to remove. Next, we can come up top. We have 2 10mm bolts and a push clip. So I'll grab a clip remover tool to pop out our push clip first. And then we'll grab our 10mm socket for the 2 bolts. So now we can pop our headlight out of place. We're going to be disconnecting this connector back here. And then we can take our splitter, plug that into our body harness side, plug the other end into our headlight. And then we can slide this back into place. Now this way we have our connector for our grill coming out by our washer fluid. And I'll grab our push clip to pop in here just to hold this in place. Now we can reinstall those 2 bolts up top. And take our 10mm socket to tighten these down. Next, we can come to the outer corner and reinstall our bolt, as well as our nut. And we'll take our 10mm socket to tighten those down. And now lastly, we can reinstall the bolt on the inside corner and tighten that down with an 8mm socket. Now we can line up and install our grill. Next, we can go through and reconnect all of our connectors as well as our new one for our grill.
and we can tuck our excess wire away. Next, we can reinstall the 4 bolts at the top of our grill. And then we'll take a 10mm socket and tighten these down. Next, we can reinstall our radiator cover. And then we can reinstall all of our push clips. Next, we can come to the lower corner and reinstall our bolts. We've got 1 on each side. We can tighten that down with an 8mm socket. And then you can do that same thing on the other side. Next, we can reinstall our lower trim. Now lastly, we can come back to our wheel well and reinstall our 2 screws. And then we'll grab our 7mm socket and tighten these down. And then you can do that same thing on the other side. So that'll wrap up this review and install of the Red Rock upper replacement grill with DRL for your 2021 and newer F-150, excluding the Raptor and Tremor. Thank you for watching, and for all things F-150, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.